Oh, wow. Dion, man, I knew this was going to happen. We were going to be all out of place. Good afternoon, Doc. Dion, I can't hear you. Gotta see if we
There
can
you
hear.
go. Hey, see, look at that. What can go wrong will go wrong. But listen, I want to welcome everyone here to the Ministers Round Table, where we talk about ministry being relevant, real, and resource. And we're here, Pastor Dion Henry, Pastor Paul. And wait a minute, we're missing somebody, Pastor Paul. Who are we
We
missing
are.
today?
We're missing Roger. Roger's going to be in the middle today, but Pastor Wade is at a rally today in Minneapolis, and he's out here. When he gets back in, you're going to see him live on the ground there. So that's going to be an interesting perspective to see and to hear what he's got going on out there. So I'm very fascinated to see when he gets back with us. He was with us just a little while ago, but just because of the nature of what he's doing, he had to drop out. But he will be back with us momentarily, we hope. Um,
Wow, wow.
yeah,
Okay. Well, that's good. You know, here at the round table, we really believe in ministry being relevant, and so sometimes we'll be on the field.
that's
And
right.
again, just interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say when he comes on back.
Yes, indeed. So we want to welcome everybody who's watching us today. You may be watching on Facebook. You may be watching on YouTube. We just want to say greetings and welcome. We want you to feel free today to interact. There are going to be questions and things that you have. We want you to use your chat box, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube. I want you to take advantage of that to interact with us today. We also want you to subscribe rather to the YouTube channel. I think we've got about 51 or so of you guys that have subscribed to that. But once we get to 100, YouTube lets us have a unique address. So that right now, if you're trying to find us on YouTube, you're typing and searching and a whole bunch of stuff. Once we get 100 of you to subscribe, then we can have a static name that'll always be the same, and we can always send that out. It makes it a lot easier to find. So we want you to go ahead and hit that little subscribe button. Once you do that, if you click the little bell, you'll be able to follow us whenever something is live. You'll get notice whenever we put any new topics or new videos up. You'll be able to catch that as well. So, Dr. Henry, man, how's your week, Doc?
Well, the week has been good so far. A lot of interesting things happened this week. I'm just glad to make it to the end. You know, by the way, this week, for those of you all who do not know, Pastor Walter Pearson was funeralized this week
That's right. That's
in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Berean Church. And so, again, our prayers go out to that family in a special way. In fact, before I came here to this show to have this live broadcast, I was watching one of Walter Pearson's old sermons. Oh my goodness, it was
Yeah.
powerful. And he was talking about marching around the walls of Jericho. And
Wow.
it was
Wow. Wow.
exciting. So, again, we want to definitely pray for that family. How about you? How was your week?
Yeah, good week, busy week. I think a lot of us have found out that pastoring has become a lot busier um, during quarantine and COVID than it was
Yes.
before. I don't know how that happens, but that is what that is. And but it's been a good week. Otherwise, we are trying to keep on keeping on. We got graduation coming up at my school. We're getting ready to have a drive-in graduation next Sunday, man.
Okay. A
We
driving
have
graduation.
yeah.
That should be interesting, man.
It's gonna be interesting. Gonna be interesting. So look, man. So what's on the table today, Doc? What do we got on the table today?
On the table, we have a special show on the table. We're going to talk about the impact, definitely, of COVID-19, but we're talking about maximizing your digital footprint. Maximizing your digital footprint.
All right, that sounds loaded. There's a lot in digital footprint. You didn't just say social media footprint. You said digital footprint.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be interesting to see as we develop that. So who's at the table? We know that's what's on the table, but who's at the table today, Doc?
Oh, listen, we have some powerhouses. We have Justin Khoe.
What?
He
What?
is, yes, he is the digital missionary. I was reading a little bit about you here. The digital missionary. And he is online. He's doing some phenomenal things did something with the Florida Conference the other day, and he's just continually just doing some powerful things on the digital ministry. He is actually has a YouTube video out, is seen around the world.
A
He
video.
has been on many talk shows. A video, yeah, several videos. Excuse me.
He's that Christian blogger, man.
He's a Christian blogger.
He's big time. Yeah.
So
He's got lots of stuff.
pushing
Well, he used to be that Christian vlogger. Now he's the I'm listening guy. So he's made a little transition. So he's going to get to tell us a little bit about that as we move on. So who else we got at the table?
Oh, listen, we got another powerhouse, man, from New York.
What?
And this Gary Saunders has been a blessing to ministries. I mean, many churches call him. He actually works for IBM as the senior live streaming and producer engineer. And I know that, if you work for IBM at that level, then we know you're good. So he's been doing some phenomenal things throughout the years in the church, just taking it to the next level. We'll talk about, you see his shirt, it says, you'll see it as he comes on, but his shirt has Praise Vision. And we'll talk a little bit about Praise Vision and that ministry. So we're just so blessed to have these two powerhouses that have agreed to be on our show this afternoon.
Okay. I wish we had these guys with us all the time to help us with this production stuff, because preachers.
Well, that would be a blessing.
So we are kind of stalling just a little bit, trying to see if Pastor Wade is going to get back. I see a comment saying, "I don't see you, Pastor Wade." That's from Wandisha, but he's on his way. He's on his way. So let's shall we hop into it? Let's go.
Let's hop into it.
All right.
And whenever Pastor Wade comes in, we'll see what's happening over there, and we'll just move back and forth.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all, the screen is gonna be a little messed up right now because we're missing that one that one shot. But so I'm gonna take a minute and rearrange that to make that work. But let's start off before we bring in our guest. Let's offer a word of prayer. Father, we are grateful for the opportunity that we have to share some relevant ways and some viable ways to do ministry. And we thank you for you opening those avenues for us as we seek to inspire and to motivate people to jump on in and to engage ministry on this level. We're praying that you would lead us and guide us, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. And again, the screen is set for 5, but so it's going to look a little funny right now with 4 of us. Hey, that almost works. That works. We'll make it work. So, Gary, Justin, good afternoon, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having us.
All right. Glad to have you guys with us on the Pastor's Round Table. This is a new venture for us. We are not techies and gurus and all this kind of stuff. We're just trying to get along. We decided one day we wanted to talk about structure of the church. We wanted to talk about how the church is going to function in this new kind of COVID world. And so that kind of led us to some of these discussions. And along the way, we figured out that technology was going to be a big thing of how church happens in this particular context. So we thought that today would be a great day to have you guys come on and join us. And just before we get into today's, just want to let you know, by the way, we see some folks saying hello. Bryant Taylor is saying hello, Gary.
BT.
Yeah,
my
BT.
guy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But so we want to let everybody know that today is actually part 1 of a 2-part series, because next week we're going to be doing, again, focusing on digital media. Next week, and we'll tell a little bit more about it at the end. But let's do that. We'll tell you more about it at the end. So stay tuned, because you want to hear about that. All right. So let's jump in, man. Dion, what's our first question for today, Doc?
Well, listen, today, again, privilege to have you all on the show, taking the time out to come on here. We talk about this digital footprint. I mean, churches now, if you want to have a church, you got to have some type of digital ministry. Am I right? You can't just do it. In fact, I was reading an article that said when the church door closed, then now we could open a window browser, right? So we're opening a window browser.
That was
We're
key.
trying to have church online. So when we talk about digital footprint, and we talk about the impact that has had and can have on our society, what do we mean when we say digital footprint? What do we mean? Talk to us about that. Any one of you can take that question.
Yeah,
Justin, you go
let me
first.
say this too, Gary. Your screen is scary, man. I'm looking at all those machines and all that equipment and stuff back there, and now you're saying digital footprint. I'm scared, man. You're a guru. You know I do all this stuff, but when people hear terms like vlog and blog and analytics and all
Live
this
streaming.
stuff, digital footprint, social media. You're making it look scary right now. Sorry.
Podcast.
It's not scary.
It
It's
looks
not scary
expensive
at all.
too, quite frankly.
That it is.
Oh,
It is
no.
expensive. This is years of toil and sweat and labor for all of this stuff, man. It becomes a lot. But just to kind of go into answering your question, Dr. Dion Henry. A lot of people don't know, but Dion is family to me. So I'm gonna put that out there. Get that out the way. So
I praise God he's family. He came down to my church. Let me just put this in there. We were having an anniversary, and you came down and did a phenomenal job. I mean, we have a documentary of our anniversary for our church. So just praise God for you.
Wow.
yeah, you lucky. You lucky. But anyway, let's talk about digital footprint. So it's important in these times to actually have a digital footprint, and what we mean by that is being able to be found somewhere on the internet, whether it's going to be on a website. I remember there years ago. I remember when my good friend George Johnson was doing all these Adventist website trophies. You know what I mean? That was where it was years ago. But right now, streaming is where it is now. So if you are unable to actually do any streaming, even though it's kind of hard to find you. It's like really hard for people to notice who you are and how to actually get involved or get in contact with you, or just to even find out how your church is. Like how is your church? You know what I mean? So people tend to use those mediums to do that. And vlogging, Justin does that, and blogging, if you want to actually type your thoughts and put them onto the stream into into a website, and just to get your information out there so people can kind of start to actually take a look and find out who you are. So being involved in the digital footprint is very, very, very important.
All right.
Awesome. So Justin, when people hear terms like vlog and blog and analytics and all of those things, what are just some basic definitions? What's the difference between a blog and a vlog, and what is social media and analytics? I want to talk about that a little bit too. What are those things?
Yeah, so if I could rewind just a second to add on to what Gary was saying, it used to be that social media for a church or for a ministry was a bit of a luxury. It was something that you did. Maybe you had a little bit of extra money. If you had some enthusiastic young people, okay, cool. You guys go do that. You use your energy over there. But especially in coronavirus time, we're seeing that that's no longer the case. It's no longer a luxury.
Wow.
Having a building where you can meet physically today is the luxury, and having a digital footprint and a place to meet digitally is what's necessary now. And so in the same way that if you wanted to bring someone to church, it was almost understood, it was part of what was expected to bring someone to a physical location. It's kind of flipped on its head now, where today, if you want to introduce someone to your pastor or to your ministry or your church or just in general to a discipleship process of any kind, you must be doing it through social media. And I've been making this argument that it would always be this way for a number of years. Now, coronavirus has accelerated that process, but I do actually believe that even once we go back to whatever normal is going to look like, it's still going to be this way. we've seen now that churches have the ability not just to reach people within their zip code, not just to reach people within their neighborhood, but to reach people from all around the world. You can reach people who are there in your home conference. You can even reach people outside of your division and across the world. And that's something that I want to say, that even when we go back to normal, obviously an in-person physical worship experience is irreplaceable. It's absolutely crucial. But I think what we've been able to see and witness and learn during this digital emphasis is that the church can have a much larger footprint than ever before. And by using things like vlogs and blogs and all these things that we'll talk about, we can actually maximize our church's reach and be able to spread the gospel. So I'm excited to be able to talk about this, because this is something I've been about for a number of years, and I realize that there's a little bit of an education process, there's a learning curve, and so I'm excited that we actually get to talk about that today. There's many different ways to increase your digital footprint. It can be as simple as a Facebook page using different social media platforms like Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I realize that for some people I've already gone too far. But you can do things through email, you can do things through your website, you can have things like that are video forms, written form. And so when you hear terms like a blog, for example, a written blog is in essence like an article that can be hosted by your church, by yourself, by a third party that's just written. A vlog with a V is simply a video blog, a video version of that. And usually you'll see things like that on YouTube or Instagram. Even this video in and of itself could, in theory, be considered a vlog.
Okay. All right.
All right. So let me ask you this: live streaming. All right. Can you define? And I'm sure a lot of people know about live streaming, but can you talk about live streaming? I mean, what's the definition of this live streaming? I mean, I know it's simple, but just to put it out there. And analytics.
I think Gary's the expert on live streaming, so I'll defer to Gary.
Well, this is live streaming. So pretty much whereby you have a content that is then introduced into what you call an encoder, which goes onto the internet and then be presented on a number of various different websites. So that's, in essence, it's a quick down and dirty definition of what live streaming is. It's live. So where I am, I'm in the Bronx, and I'm talking to you into a camera, which is going into a whole bunch of stuff back here that is hitting you guys. So I am live.
I got you.
Okay.
I had another question here. Okay, so we talked about this digital ministry that we have to have now. But who does the digital ministry really reach? I mean, what is the demographics of it? Who does it really reach? Because a lot of people, I know now things are a little different, right? Because of COVID-19. But before COVID-19, okay, there was a certain group, I think, as I'm doing some reading on it, that said, you know what, I'm not going to do the digital church. I'm not going to do. So what type of people, what type of people does this ministry reach?
I think it can reach everyone, but from what in my research and doing streaming over 15 years, I believe it was always the 30 to about 55. That just right inside that. I know it's like a 20-year span, like a 25-year span, but those 30 years, like just kind of getting interested in the live streaming aspect of it. But now it's much younger because people have been exposed to it at a much younger age. But when I started, that was the demographic that was really kind of gung-ho into it. You know what I mean?
Wow. I would have almost expected that to be way younger. I would have imagined from the beginning. But
when I started, no.
Wow.
When I started, and that was about 2006. And it was kind of weird. I don't want to kind of jump into what my story was, but I was about 20 something. I was fresh out of college, and what I wanted to do was be able to watch TV at work. I liked the morning news, and I wanted to watch it. So, I rigged something where I was able to get my content from home to my computer, and then I was able to watch TV at work. Now, my boss didn't know, and then when he came back, I just closed the thing down. But but that was just like something. But then I caught on, I was like, hey, this could be used for a whole lot of different things. But so yeah, the demographic. If you take a look now, but you got to really let me retract that a little bit. What you need to really do is take a look at who you're trying to serve. Like Justin. Right now, his demographic would probably be a lot younger because of his age and what he presents. Dr. Henry, your demographic is different. Absalom, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't
let him speak for himself. Yeah.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But the where we have to find out as digital I would say explorers is finding that niche where we could create a cross section between the whole spectrum, and whoever does that first wins.
Wow.
You got guess what? The playing field is leveled.
Okay.
There's no church. You can't hide your members behind your church doors anymore.
So
Yeah.
Okay, he's hitting some past the ball. I don't know if we should dive into that now because
We taking members now.
go ahead, Doc. You got it, man.
Well,
here's
the thing.
Go ahead.
I think you're right on it because I mean now, people they'll watch the service, and if the service is not hitting, they'll go all over the world, and they'll watch a different service. I mean, there's no way we can hide our members from our mistake. If our service is not going correctly, there's no way to shelter that. We can't hide that now because they're going. So on this, what should we do? And I'm also coming to Justin here. What should we do as a church so that we can make sure that this ministry is impactful? Because some churches don't have the dollars like a lot of other churches. Some churches, you have a 3-shoot. Some churches they don't have that. So what can we do so that we can still be impactful and keep our members? We want to keep our members, man.
Hey, listen. Let me Justin, right before that. So Dr. Henry, you know what I did? I knew that out the gate, and so what I just embraced it. Because what I would find is that when we finished our worship stream, I'm the one who's bouncing around from service to service, from church to church. I'm going and checking out all these other church services. And so I would tell my folk when we first started streaming, I'd say, look, I know y'all are going to do it. There's some great stuff happening out there. Go get fed. There's good food out there, good spiritual food. Go find it. This isn't the only, it's a smorgasbord out there. Go and find something.
But keep your tithe here. Keep your tithe here.
Yeah. But the idea that my job as a pastor is to make sure that my members are spiritually fed puts me in the position of having no issues with saying, here are some resources that you can find some good spiritual information, some good spiritual food. But AdventistGiving.com online. New Hope. All right, Justin.
Justin, talk to us, man.
Yeah. So with respect to you, Doc, I think the paradigm of how do we keep our members might actually be missing the ball just a little bit. What if instead the paradigm wasn't how do we keep our members, but how do we release our members? How do we actually give them a commission? And I think that this is really what the advantage of the internet is. Absolutely, there's a sense in which if you as a consumer are intentional, you can actually do church 3 or 4 or 5 services in one single Sabbath. And that's a huge blessing. My wife's Nana, she's like, I love coronavirus season because I can actually go to 4 churches instead of 1 church on Sabbath. I'm like, all right, Nana, like you do you. That's awesome. And that's beautiful. I love that, I could do church with y'all today. I could do church with Randy Roberts down in Loma Linda. I could do church with my local church here in Oregon, all within the same day. And I could be doing it while I'm in my car driving to the beach. Like that's a really big blessing. Like, all right. But I'd like to shift the attention from how do we keep people to how do we release them? How do we send them out? Nice. Because when you think about what it took the average person back in the day to reach, let's say, 1,000 people, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of energy. It's even a lot of money. My background is in literature evangelism. I did literature evangelism for 10 years. I've personally knocked on over 100,000 doors in trying to spread the gospel, right?
Wow.
And that takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy, literal blood, sweat, and tears. But now here's the crazy thing is by investing in social media ministry, I literally reach 100,000 people every single month. And it's many times people from all around the world. It's young people who largely are disappearing from church. And so when you think about what it used to take for an average person to be able to spread the gospel, man, you needed to have a live, news station come through. You need to have like all these massive cameras. You need to have a whole production team. You need to have everything. Now, quite literally, with a phone, you can do all of those things. You no longer need a team. You no longer need a giant budget. And I get what Gary is saying, because I've also invested in quite a bit of equipment over the last couple of years. But I have friends who are on YouTube, because YouTube is my platform of choice. By the way, did you know that over 2 billion people sign on to YouTube and are regular YouTube users every single month? 2 billion with a B. It's absolutely incredible. 80% of people who use the internet, more accurately, 79% of people who use the internet have a regular usage of YouTube. And that's not just young people. Over 50% of elderly folks use YouTube on a regular basis today. Wow. And so this is absolutely incredible. So some of my peers on YouTube who reach, a couple hundred, maybe between 250,000 to 500,000 people every single month, do so with literally only a phone as their equipment of choice. They film the video on their phone, they edit the video on their phone, and then they broadcast it in the same way that a news station or a television station would, all on their phone. And so the question I want to challenge the church with is like, okay, given that we have these tools and given that our commission is to spread the gospel to the whole world, like, what are we doing about that? Because before, you had to get on a boat and travel across the world in order to spread the gospel, right? Or minimally, you had to get on a plane, and even that was a massive leap forward in technology.
You're touching on some things here, sir. You're touching on some things.
Yeah.
I can do that now with a push of a button while I'm still in my pajamas before I had my morning Roma.
Right, so that's funny. Morning Roma. Post them. All right, but check it out. And that's all well and good, but not everybody can do that. You understand what I'm saying?
And yet everyone is called to do that, whether it's digitally or not. Everyone's called to do that.
Absolutely. But I think there needs to be a shift completely in, and I'm dare I go out and say this, in how our pastors are being taught to execute that plan. So regularly, our pastors are not necessarily going to be this savvy. The pastors you wait 5 years and every pastor will. Every pastor who graduates from college in the next 5 to 10 years will be savvy because they grow up on this. It's a native language to them. No, but that is where we're going. That's where we're going. Where some people are now, and believe me, I'm with you with this because I've been preaching this forever. You know what I mean? Get online, do this, because people say, listen, we don't have the money to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to spend this money. But now this is what the new norm is. Everybody wants to get it now. And people are now retaining services. Hey, I want to do this. I need you to be my consultant. I need you. We get that. But at the same point, I'm just hoping that all, like what our Adventist institutions are teaching is that for the pastors to embrace this and really run with it. You know what I mean? Because the older generation, they're trying to kind of learn it now, and in learning it now, we're seeing a lot of falling down. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm right here, Gary. You don't have to talk about me in front of my face, man. I'm right here.
Oh, you be quiet. Listen, you're using eCam. Some people are doing worse than you. So absolutely. The phone you can do all that stuff from your phone and or a computer. But basically, what it is, you just got to have the concept, and then like, how do you teach old dogs new tricks? I think now specifically is where. Us media directors have to rise up Before, they weren't throwing any monies, any dollars or anything at the media directors to actually help them get to where they need to be. You know what I mean? But now it's something that it's just a very few pastors that embraced it, and you see where they are. But that's not the overall majority. There's a minority of us that are kind of doing it like this, and we can kind of count them out because we're all on the same circuit doing this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just hoping that our institutions are being able to start to teach. Maybe there needs to be a class that you can teach, Justin, called digital media. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that pastors who are graduating during coronavirus season most likely aren't given very much, if any, training on digital missions.
Right.
When literally, if they were to take a call today, I met a pastor just yesterday who's starting July 1 in his first church, that he has not had extensive or at least a bare minimum training on digital ministry. That's a challenge. And that's I agree with you, Gary, that there needs to be some education taking place in our institutions today.
Absolutely.
So here's the next question then. When we look at this digital media and digital footprint, et cetera, who stands to be, how do I say this? Who's most likely to benefit from maximizing the digital footprint? From a conference level, union level, local church level, local ministry level, who stands to gain the best mileage out of maximizing a digital footprint?
Yeah, let me answer that question with a question. Who stands to gain the most if you have an effective food ministry or homeless ministry or Dorcas ministry?
Yeah.
The people who stand the most to gain actually aren't the church or the conference, it's the people you're serving. So the need for a media ministry actually benefits the people you're trying to reach, because now you actually can reach them.
Wow. Absolutely. It's never been.
Listen, if the church doesn't embrace media ministry, the people who suffer are the people you're trying to reach.
Wow.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's
let
awesome.
me ask a quick question here off of that. So, what has been your experience in the church embracing this ministry? Have you gotten a lot of resistance? And we're not naming any names, all right?
Well, that's not, you can't really count that now because everybody's running to it now.
Everything's different now.
Everybody's running to this now. We're like, oh, we need you to do this. Yeah. We need you to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, as a media director, it's endless. It's endless, the amount of services that you have to provide, whether it's Sabbath school or Sunday school, because I work for also a ministry, a large scale ministry, whether it's Sabbath school or Sunday school, where it's worship service, whether it's an exercise class, whether it's a cooking class. All these things are now, because we don't have in New York, we don't, and specifically in my conference, we don't have the luxury to go into the buildings yet. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do everything literally remotely. You know what I'm saying? So we're at home together. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So Justin is spot on. I've always said,
wow,
when everybody rises up, when everybody comes together to start to do this kind of stuff, the winner is the viewer, the content ingester.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to win.
And here's the thing, like doing ministry remotely is nothing new. Like we feel like it's a novel idea. We feel like, oh my goodness, this is so different than the way things have always been. No, like think about this. John on the island of Patmos is in quarantine, unable to reach the churches that he's trying to minister to. So what does he do? He writes a blog. It's called the Book of Revelation.
Preach, Justin.
And he sends it out to 7 churches, and he says, hey, this is what you need to know. This is how I'm going to encourage you. This is how I'm going to challenge you.
Where's that Hammond organ?
The Bible is literally the product of modern-day social media. The fact that you have the book of Ephesians today is because someone wrote it down and sent it out. The vast majority of people who consumed the Bible are not the intended audience. We're never there physically. It wasn't a sermon. It was a piece of media that was sent out to the world. We're not doing something new. We're doing what has already been done. There's nothing new under the sun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
These are digits, by the way. Digital. Digital
there you go. There you go.
Wow.
Well, Pastor Paul, speaking about the power of digital media, I don't know if Roger Wade is able to come on and letting us know what was happening on the ground, on the field. I don't know if he's able to come on. Maybe we should get him to come on, because again, we're about making ministry real. And if he's ready to come on, Roger Wade, and let us know what's happening out there.
Is he on the Skype? I don't see him back on the Skype
I think he's supposed to come on.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll still wait for him. But until then, Gary, do this, man. We want to know a little bit about your story. So you and we got lots of questions that are coming in. We're going to get to your questions because there's some great questions. But we want to hear just a little bit, Gary, your background in digital media, social media, Praise Vision. What was the motivation for you to get into this kind of a ministry? And give us just a little bit of the backstory for Praise Vision, because when I came up. When we first started pastoring, Praise Vision was the thing. I mean, if you weren't on Praise Vision, it was Praise Vision, and what was the other one?
Church Bond.
Church Bond.
You're glad I did that for you. I said, what was the other one? and Church Bond. I mean, that was the thing. That's like 20-something years ago. Oh, I just told Deanna's age. My so you were a forerunner. You were, a pioneer in this kind of stuff. So talk to us. What's the story, man? How'd you get into it?
Well, actually, as I said before, was my whole thing was I wanted to watch TV from home at work. You know what I mean? And then for those who know me about 20 years ago, they don't know me for doing this. They know me for being a choir director, praise and worship leader, and a singer. You know what I mean? Okay. That's who I was. So basically, everybody goes through their Job experience, and I kind of got pulled out of certain things, and I got to get back in the church. That's what it was. I got back in the church, and everything got returned to me, and then getting all those things were kind of returned to me. One of those things was actually a merger of my two loves, which was praise and worship, where technology meets worship and praise. And technology. I was an engineer for, actually not an engineer at that time. I was a junior data administrator for Verizon. So I used to build websites. I used to build the databases, engines that actually drove corporate websites. So that's what I did. So I kind of merged my loves of those things, and I kind of connected with some like-minded people at the time. Was Chip Dizard, Rich Herrard, Terrence Bowen. At that time, it wasn't Fabian Morrison, but Fabian kind of came on a little bit later. But we kind of joined forces and kind of created this like-minded company that we wanted to produce professional content. And it wasn't just Adventist content, but it was just professional content and bring it to the forefront. And that's what we did. It was pretty much. I can tell you a quick story. There was a gentleman that was a part of my church. His name was Ralston Perkins. He's a pianist, and Ralston lived somewhere else. His father was here. His father wasn't doing well, and Ralston came to play the piano for church, while he was going to go visit his father, who was not doing well. So I'm just leave it at that. So we created a platform by where we were able to take the church service to his father, which is kind of unprecedented at the time in the church, and he was able to hear his son play for the final time. Yeah, so once I did that, I kind of see the necessity for that in ministry. And I just kind of extrapolated from that to bring on more and more churches to do a lot of different things. And, over the years, Praise Vision has gone through a lot of ebbs and flows and kind of changed with the times. But now it is, let me retract it a little bit, but it has also given us the ability to kind of go outside of Adventist ministry and to deal with ministry on a whole. You know what I mean? So we got to work with Ty Tribbett. We got to work with Hezekiah Walker. We've got to work with Richard Smallwood. We got to work with J.J. Harrison. We've made videos. We've made we've helped sponsor movies, and we've done a lot of different things as it pertains to ministry and media. So it's not just like we were just going to stay in the streaming footprint. We've evolved. I mean, we've been doing camp meetings for everybody for years. Right, but we've really been behind the scenes on a lot of stuff, on a lot of things that you see that goes outside of the northeastern footprint or even California with the guys that we used to work with over there. We were just behind the scenes on a lot of things, trying to raise the bar when it comes to quality. So that's kind of like the long and short of it, what Praise Vision is and how it became what it is. We're still here, but our kind of focus have shifted. We're more production driven and more inclusive. So it's not just an Adventist thing anymore. You know what I mean? It's for everybody, because I don't think we should just be locked in and sheltered inside here. We have to get what we know and be the best example of what Adventist is ourselves to the world.
So it sounds like you're saying you're really wanting your platform to be a platform that projects and pushes other people to have access to do ministry.
We want you to be the best you can be.
Okay, awesome.
That's what it is. And it doesn't matter what your price point is, because we've worked with churches that had to spend $5,000, with churches that have to spend over $500,000. It doesn't matter. The basic and the core value still remains. But when you take a look at it, if you want it to look a certain way, you're going to pay for it to look a certain way. You know what I mean? But either way, we help anybody do what they want to get done.
Okay. All right.
All right. How about you,
right.
Justin?
Good
Justin, Mr. Khoe, you have a powerful ministry. Vlogger. You have that Christian vlogger, and I'm listening. Tell us, what motivated you? How did you get involved in media ministry? What was your motivation?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, my background in serving the church has been in evangelism. I've served as a literature evangelist, a Bible worker, and a public evangelist. I've preached numerous crusades, done the whole thing. Most recently, I took a call in the Columbia Union to teach at a Bible college, to teach evangelism, actually, to our young people. And while I was there, I met a young guy by the name of Michael Troyanowski III. And he was just someone who was out there in the world consuming media, just nominal Christian, maybe go to mass on Christmas, maybe on Easter, kind of a thing. Come to find out that the way he actually came to faith in Christ was actually through a YouTube video. He found this guy on the other side of the country, no one with a big ministry behind, no big name, no brand, just a random guy filming his life and talking about his walk with God. This was enough for him that he decided, I'm not only going to be a Christian, but I actually had the privilege of baptizing him as a Seventh-day Adventist.
Wow.
He was in the waters that day because of a YouTube video. And I'm thinking to myself, goodness gracious, I spend how much time knocking on doors, trying to sell books, trying to make a difference. And like in this whole model of ministry, we do it by faith. We trust that it'll reach someone. But you may never know whether that Steps of Christ or that Desire of Ages or that Great Controversy or fill in the blank will actually ever accomplish what you hope it does. And yet this video has done the very thing that I want to be able to accomplish. And I'm putting in sweat and tears. I'm putting in so much time and energy for the class that I teach for 11 students. Or on the weekends, I might get to speak at a church of 100 or 200, maybe if we're lucky, 300 people. And I'll put in all these hours. And so I started to think to myself, well, what if I put in the same amount of energy to communicate the same message, but instead of in a church or through a pamphlet, do it on video and send it out there to the internet? Could it possibly reach people in the same way that all these other methods of ministry do? So I started, and I didn't have any skills, or I didn't own a camera, just decided to give it a shot. And I remember it was around New Year's thinking, all right, God, I'm going to give this a shot. I'll go for 1 year. I'll put in the work to do one video every single week for an entire year. And God, if you want to bless it, you got to bless it. But of course, I don't know what the metrics are like. I don't know what to expect. I don't have any insights, as you were saying, Doc, earlier, onto the analytics. So I just interpret it in the same way that I would interpret any other ministry. If I'm planning a church in 1 year, what would success look like? And so I wrote down a healthy church is 250 people. If I could reach 250 young people coming back week after week to be discipled, to hear about the gospel, that would be a win. I would keep doing it. And then God's like, nah, bro, you gotta dream bigger. So, okay, what does that look like? I just doubled the number, 500 people. Would you know it, after 12 months, not only did I hit 250, not only did I surpass 500, but in 12 months, my audience was over 10,000 people. Wow. 73% were under the age of 34, the very demographic that is leaving the church. 59% of young adults who grow up in the Adventist church, by the time they reach 18, have left the church. And yet here, through the internet, I'm actually reaching them. And right now, I have the ability to speak to my online church, if you will, is over 103,000 people large. And I get to minister to people from all over the world. And so 10 months into this 1-year journey, I really feel God's like, all right, Justin, you got to go all in. Like, you're doing a good job. You're being faithful, but go all in. So what that meant, because my church, my union, my division, they would support me in the sense of pat me on the back and give me a thumbs up and say, good job, we need more of this, go do it. But as far as real, tangible, like, support, they were not in a position to do that yet. And I don't want to throw shade. I'm not trying to be upset about it. I was upset then, but I've healed from that. God has worked.
Yeah, praise God.
But here's what it meant. It meant that 10 months into it, within my first year of marriage, I had to come back to my wife and tell her, God has made it clear to me it's time for me to quit my job. You're paying the bills, and I'm going to make YouTube videos for a living. And God bless my wife. She actually said yes.
Okay,
and so now we've been 4 years into that journey.
Wait a minute, Justin. Wait a minute. Hold on. I got to slow you down.
All right.
So you told your wife, hey, listen, I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to do ministry.
Yeah, which was crazy because you know how we are, those of us in ministry serving the church, we make good money. We make a lot of money. And so that was already a big leap of faith, right? To go into ministry was already a financial hardship in certain respects. But to say, hey, babe, we're going to do this.
Justin, hold on, Justin. For those of you that missed the sarcasm there.
That was all sarcasm.
Yeah, okay, all right. I got yeah, all right.
Because they were about to forget about passive appreciation, man. They were about to forget about
I mean, I don't know about y'all, but y'all looking good, man. I think y'all are doing all right. I'm over here with my T-shirt. Like, you notice those in ministry got the threads.
Suits on, right?
Man,
they told us
struggling in a baseball cap and a T-shirt today.
Yo, they told us, Justin. They said dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
Well, luckily this is the job I want, so I'm doing all right.
So talk to us. Okay, so you made a step in faith. And you said, listen, and your wife was right. By the way, we praise God for good spouses. Amen.
Amen. We would not have been able to do any of this if it weren't for her. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so now we're doing it, and we're spreading the gospel. Now it's not just one YouTube channel. I run many different shows. I'm able to come back to the very church that I wanted to serve in the first place. It's a crazy thought. It's a crazy moment to realize that God's calling you to serve the church, but the best way you can serve the church is to quit your job working for the church. Y'all have heard the story of HMS Riches before, right? Mm-hmm. Here's this guy who had this brilliant idea. We're gonna use the radio to spread the gospel. So he goes to the church and says, hey, I've got this crazy idea. Here's what I want to do. And the church is like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We're good. So what does he do? He says, all right, cool. If y'all don't want to do it, I'll do it myself, and I'll give it a shot. I'll take the risk, and I'll move forward. And sure enough, once he gets to this point where he's able to be successful, the church is like, actually, second thought, we want some of that. Like, how do we learn what you've been doing?
Yeah,
and so
happens all the time.
From the very beginning, I've realized it's going to take people like Gary, who's going to be able to just put the energy in, put the work in, take the financial risk themselves, because when a time like coronavirus comes, guess who they're calling now? They're calling Gary.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's awesome. So let's. I want to dig into some of these questions, and I'm going to back way up if I can. So I've got a question here. Where did I see that one? Here we go. And this one says this. This is from Jennifer Sharon. It says, if you are just getting started with streaming, what is the most inexpensive or medium range money dollar amount, and what equipment would be necessary? Gary, streaming, most inexpensive medium.
This is
that's why you're scary, man.
This is what you need. You
So
don't have
you said
or
this.
nothing.
Justin said a phone.
Jennifer
You said
just
all of
signed
that.
off right now. She said, "See you later, Gary. I ain't listening to you no more."
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Actually, what Justin said, yeah, the most inexpensive way, and I kind of when I see this, I'm always thinking of my good friend BT. He's like, this is all you need. You got your phone. Now, seriously, you get your phone, you have, because a lot of the apps nowadays already have the encoders kind of built in, so you get, your YouTube or you have your Facebook, and you can start with that. Going, and you'll get a good product. I'm not going to say it's bad, but it depends on what you're trying to do. And therein lies the conundrum, because I think most people, they see production and say, listen, I want to go to the highest level. But I think what people kind of need to do is be kind of true to themselves. Before you go and you start to spend any money on any equipment to do anything, you have to kind of be true to make sure that you have the content to deliver. You know what I mean? Not everybody necessarily has the content. You could have multi-million-dollar equipment, but a $2 word.
Mercy.
You spend a whole lot of money, and nobody listens to what you're saying. You know what I mean? So you just got to be true to yourself when it kind of comes to that.
He said, that, Dr. Henry, you heard me say, he said, a
$2.
multi-million-dollar equipment and a $2 word, bro.
My.
My Lord.
I've come across a lot of stuff and a lot of religions because I work with everybody. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm Adventist to the bone. I mean, it is what it is. It's in my blood. It is what it is. But when it kind of comes down to it, it's very important. Like, you can go ahead and grab your phone. You can start with that. You're taking a level up from there. You can go and buy a webcam, and you have a computer, and download various different applications like OBS. I'm going to give you some free stuff now. OBS, which is an open source application, where you can go ahead and use that with a webcam, and that could really start you off really well, because you can do some really cool stuff with OBS, like for real. You could bring in other sources into OBS, whether, let's say, you want to be able to go and put up a lower third, you could do that. If you want to do a full screen graphic with your Bible text, you can do that. Or even, which is free, but then a step from that, you can go into things like this. Like what we're using here is Ecamm. You know what I mean? That's it's paid. You have another one that's called StreamYard. You know what I mean? Those are good too. But then you want to take it up from there, you can get to the big boys. You could go to a Wirecast and live stream, and, you could go get your ATEM and your big production switcher to then do what you want to do. But it really depends on what your ministry is, number one, capable of, and what financially you're capable of as well. So, yeah, you could start very, very small with this and then build from there. I mean, I did.
Right. So here's I think an important thing I think that I'd like for our audience to be able to digest. So the type of content. You've got various types of content that are being pushed out. Some of them are just regular church services. Just the same thing that you see in church is what you're seeing on the live stream or being pushed out. Others are maybe kind of an interview like what we're doing right now. Justin, you do some kind of one-on-one interview type things, but then what you started with was a vlog, like a daily. This is me getting up in the morning. This is me pouring cereal. This is me getting in my car. This is me changing my tire. This is whatever. So can you guys kind of maybe talk, Justin, just about the different types of content that could be instrumental in achieving the mission that this particular group of audiences that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that a lot of times when it comes to what we think of when we think of how do I spread the gospel, oftentimes what we think of is someone holding a Bible, wearing a three-piece suit with a tie in front of a stage. And to be clear,
talking about you.
Nothing wrong with it. Y'all look fantastic. Like, you guys got it going. But that's not the way that the ministry necessarily always has to happen. And there's a very strong argument to say that that's not even the most effective type of ministry. And y'all as pastors would be the first ones to admit this, right? You're taking off the coat now. Okay, so here's something that we hear a lot, right? Christ's method alone brings true success, right? Yeah. Nowhere does it talk about him holding a scroll. Nowhere does it talk about him talking to massive groups of people. What does he do? He meets with people one-on-one, mingling with them, desiring their good, being able to win their trust, to gain their confidence. And over time, later then he says, come and follow me. And so what does it look like to create content that can actually do that? How do you reach people where they're at? How do you speak to the needs that they have? Not every person is looking for a Bible study. In fact, I would even venture to say that the majority of people aren't looking for Bible studies.
That is correct.
So if the only content that comes from the church is only Bible studies, it's no wonder why our reach is limited.
Wow. That's just blowing my mind because listen, we, like my church, they hear me, they know that, they memorize that thing, Christ's method alone, et cetera, and we execute that, we implement that in how we get out and about in our neighborhood, in our community, et cetera. But to take that concept like you just did and now move it or transfer it or impose it on what we do through the digital footprint, I'm wondering if many of us have ever really kind of processed that and thought through that, because when we want to get on digital media, it's to preach a sermon, it's to develop a doctrine, it's to do the follow me part, not so much the mingle with them or minister to their needs part. Wow.
See, and that's why Justin has to go to Andrews and do the MDiv in digital. I mean, it's what it is.
Wow.
I think there's a big place right now for a shift from talking to people to talking with people. So on my show, I'm listening. This is exactly like Christ's method alone. Like, this is my best attempt to doing this on the internet right now. I actually debated, instead of calling the show I'm Listening, I was actually going to literally call the show Mingle, but that sounded too much like a dating app, so we decided not to. But I have content where I'm hanging out with people who are atheists or pagans or fill in the blank, and where it's no longer I'm trying to convince the church to go reach that person over there. No. What would it look like for me to actually just go do that? To actually go and say, hey, who are you? What's your name? How do I get to know you? What are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that you care about? And how do I join you in that thing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
This boy talk. He good. He good.
Hey, listen, what's in my mind, I got to release them. I got to release my members, man. Like you said, release them.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so we know that this is an impactful ministry. How do we maximize what we have? So we recognize that, our game has to step up. We got to step it up now because everybody's doing it. It is a Bible ministry. It's reaching a lot of people. How do we maximize what we have?
Yeah, I memean, that's a solid question. And I think it's an important question. And I don't want to dismiss it. But that's also like David saying, which of the 5 stones should I choose? Because I mean, maybe the stone's important, and maybe a certain stone is more aerodynamic than the other, better for accuracy. Maybe a certain stone's density is better suited to knock down Goliath. But at the end of the day, it's a stone in the hand of a boy who's being controlled by a supreme God. Right? And so it's less about these techniques. It's less about, well, what's the right camera? It's less about what's the right type of show. It's more about, hey, go and do something. Like, be empowered through the indwelling Holy Spirit and be used by God to be able to reflect his character to people who need to know.
And you are so like spot on with that, because like years ago when I kind of started introducing this to a lot of the churches, like I think you had asked this earlier, Dr. Henry, that did a lot of people kind of say no. Like I remember in the church that I was growing up in, they were like, "What? No." You know what I'm saying? They're like, no, we don't want to have anything to do with that. We don't want to do that. We just want to, do what we've been doing. But, it's very, very important not only to kind of step out and let your horses run. Don't hold them back. You got these people who are young and energetic and they want to roll. You got to just put your resources behind them and let them go. Just give them guidance. I wish somebody would have gave me guidance. I would have been further ahead than I am now. But now I turn around and I'm making sure that the people behind me and my kids behind me, you gonna know when they hit, because they have not only the knowledge that I have, but the drive of this generation.
Wow,
it's gonna be ridiculous.
So let me ask this question, because this has been asked of me. They said, listen, we are really comfortable, watching church online, staying home, not having to get dressed and going to church. We're really comfortable with that. So the question I have to ask, when we open up, when church eventually opens up in different places, how will this impact the in-person church?
I believe that there's nothing that can replace personal worship services. I think that there's nothing, I don't think, aside from something like coronavirus, there's nothing that's really going to challenge that model. We will always be gathering together. In fact, the admonition is not to neglect meeting together, right?
That's right. That's right.
And so I want to say we're going to be doing that till Jesus comes. Amen. But the way that we do missions is going to be very different. Okay. Tent meetings, as we've been seeing over the last several decades, just is not nearly as effective as it used to be. And when you hear the example of like, no, it is successful. We did have this crusade that baptized 100 people. Those are always the exceptions and not the norm. The way that we do effective evangelism, especially as the generations are shifting in their consumption habits, especially as Gen Z and millennials have a different climate and understanding of how they want to learn, the way that we do missions is different. Community and church and worship is always going to be, I think, it's some version of what we have now, but missions will change.
The missions will change. So how can we, and I heard what you said, and I think it's a very good point, that nothing can replace the in-person church. And it's not that this ministry is replacing it, it's it's an addition to, right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
People think that if I watch a service online, I'm less likely to show up in person. No. That's like saying like, hey, just because you are a musician and you tour the world and you do concerts, you shouldn't sell a CD because they're just going to listen to the CD instead of show up to the concert. No. The people who show up to concerts are the people who regularly listen to your music during the week. Those who will be a part of your community are those who are consuming the content that you put out online. They're going to be more inclined to show up, not less inclined.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Very, very good point. So this is in addition to, and it actually, now, here's the question. Does it help to encourage people to do in-person church? Does this ministry, the online ministry, the blogging and the online church, does that encourage people to do in-person church? Does it encourage the mingling? And particularly speaking before, because you all have been doing this for a long time, before COVID-19, just based on your knowledge, has this increased the in-person fellowship and mingling?
I think that it can. No, sorry, no. I've been talking enough. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, no, I do think it will increase the in-person, but we can't really. I don't want to say this, but this may not be the popular thing, but our churches are closed. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about they're physically closed, like the doors are locked, but we kind of contain everything inside there, but we shouldn't be containing anything inside there. We need to let it fly. So why are we asking, like, okay, so Justin is in your Portland, Oregon, right? You're Portland, right? Okay, so if Justin wants to be a member of my church, now he could be. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So you can't take it like, okay, we want you to get you inside the building. If they're already out there and they're supporting what you're doing, they're going to support what you're doing regardless. So you got to let it fly.
That's real.
You know what I mean? So don't try to get them inside the building. They'll get in there when it's time for them to get inside there. But the fact is that and this is, God help me, this is for people who kind of have it. Their ministry is going to expand. It's going to go beyond your church doors. You know what I mean? Our ministry is kind of, I know my particular ministry, we've grown beyond, like, we know we have our diehard members, but we have other people now who are just like, okay, when it opens up, we got to go check them out. You understand what I'm saying? But they're not from here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So let's not belabor the point and be like, okay, we got to get them inside the building. We got to get them inside the building. I think this is going to be a hybrid.
Yeah.
I think you need to have a hybrid. You can't just have in-person worship experience. And whoever finds the happy medium to merge the two is going to have that church, and it's going to be transformational.
Wow. And the good news, Pastor Paul, is that even if I never physically show up to your church, I can still pay my tithe. What was the link again?
Yeah. NewHopeSDA.org. Click on the Adventist giving link. Yeah.
That's the one. So even if I never show up, but I listen to every one of your sermons, I consume every podcast, every vlog that you put out, every email you send out, and every blog that you write. If I'm consuming all that and I actually want to support what you're doing, I could.
Yeah, and listen, that is so real right now. I mean, since we've been doing this every single week, we've had consistently families showing up that live in, states away, other part of the country, from the islands, from Jamaica, people who are just making this, whatever church, or at least our church, they're making that this is where they are. And I'm like, they're at their churches got something going on, but they're choosing.
Let me jump in. Guys,
and I know some of my members are doing that too. I'm watching y'all.
All right, let me jump in real quick. Guys, when it comes down to it, it's about connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. You've just gotten an audience from me that you would never have gotten before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Justin, but I'm a follower.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all about creating and making a connection, because the world is big, but it's small.
We got a comment in here. I'm watching these comments here. One said, "Yes, Gary, give them guidance."
Hey, look.
That's my.
There was a question, a great question I wanted to hit. It had to do about young people. I'm going to see if I can find it. Here it is. How do we get our youth to take over or lead out with this ministry? So what you've been doing, Justin and Gary, what you guys have been doing, help us out. Let's hit this one.
I mean, this is going to be rough. Get out of the way.
Oh, no.
Like literally, that's all you need to do. Move. Like, get out of the way. Like, young people are chomping at the bits, and they're literally doing this at the objection of most of their churches. I mean, maybe now it's different because of coronavirus, and now all of a sudden you need someone to install Zoom on your app or what, okay, cool, whatever. But before coronavirus, you talk to 10 creative people, creative young Adventists, 9 out of 10 of them are frustrated with the church. 9 out of 10 of them are like, man, I'm barely holding on with a thread. Like, I'm so frustrated with my church. They don't just get it. They're not even like letting me use my gifts for the church, much less they're condemning what I'm doing outside of the church. Get out of the way. Like, literally, like, and I'm sorry if this comes across harder than it, but this is the truth. Get out of the way. Young people are already doing it. And the problem is that the church is still trying to catch up, still trying to claw back, trying to hold on to old traditional systems that have no bearing on 2020. We need to empower young people to go do what they were all created to do. Get out of the way and well wish them. Pray for them. Support them. Support them both by watching the content and sharing it where you can.
And financially.
But I mean, like, give them some money, yo. Like, I had to quit my job to do this ministry.
Mercy.
My first year out of ministry, I earned $20,000, which is already less than y'all pastors make. But out of the $20,000 that I earned, I had to spend $18,000 in order to get equipment, to get education, to get all these things that you see. I earned $2,000 in 12 months. support young creatives. So if you're in a church capacity where you're able to say, hey, someone like Gary, we want to use your expertise, pay him what he's worth. The laborer is worthy of his hire. If you got a musician in your church,
that's not true.
Stop having to do it for free.
They're not going to pay you that. They're not going to pay you that, Justin.
Right?
You cut it out. Especially Adventist wages is different.
I know, but this is the problem.
We're not making that.
This is what I'm saying. It's like the church is in the way when it comes to these things. If a young person has the ability to use video editing or videography or graphic design, and they could go work for the world and actually earn a living or actually be hungry in the church, like, it's only natural which one they're going to do. The church needs to be able to support and encourage and even furnish young people who are going to be doing the work.
Again, I wish I had somebody to really guide me through. I mean, I did have some mentors once I got to a certain level. You know what I mean? Once I got to a certain level, then they gave me a little bit of trust to go and do that. I mean, I remember Eunice Baker brought me in to do camp meeting back in 2006 for Northeastern Conference, and I've been doing it ever since. You know what I'm saying? Because she gave me an opportunity to. Now, I have my young guys that I've had since 2006, and now it's time for them to run. I don't have that much time left. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm not old, but I don't have that much time. So I'm sitting back and I'm waiting for my guys like Orain, and I'm waiting for JJ and O'Shane and my young cats that work with me on a production truck to take it to the next level. Because I'm just and then once that happens, then I'm waiting for my sons to get up to get there, because I just can't wait to see where things are going to go. Because you see this, because you imagine what they're going to do. I'm excited for it. But the fact is that I'm hoping that I can be in a position to allow them to get past. You guys got to get out the way.
Pastor Paul, that's strong language.
Yeah,
there,
it is, and I want it to get a little bit stronger, if I may, if I can dig a little deeper. So, you some of the things what are some of the things that church folk do now that get in the way? I want to name it and throw it out there, because I think because I think when it comes to our young people, there's a lot of times that church folk, they think that they are out of the way. They think they are making the way clear and that they're giving opportunity. And it's like oftentimes they're living in two different worlds, because the kids are like, yeah. So I want to, what are some of the things, besides you said some things already as far as, not paying them, whatever. What are some of the other things that might be
put them on your board. Put them on your board.
Wait a minute now. Hold on.
Put them on your board.
How old are we talking now?
Yeah, that's Dr. Henry's church you're talking about.
It depends. No, it depends on your church. But if somebody shows a specific kind of skill level and a specific kind of maturity, why not cultivate that from that age?
Wow.
You can mold that person to be who you want to be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be clear, we're not saying like, hey, don't do anything. Young people got it all going on, and you're the problem, and we're the solution. Like, I'll pull back on my language a little bit if that's what's coming across. I apologize. That's not what I mean to insinuate. We absolutely need the leadership, the advocacy, and the mentorship of our senior folk in our church. Like, we need your expertise. We need your insight. We need your prayers and encouragement and support and your words of affirmation. We need all of that. But what are some things that get in the way when you give a young person the opportunity to volunteer their skills to create that video for your church that's only going to take them about 30 hours to create, and you expect them to do it for free? The first time they might be thankful. The second time it starts to build this cynicism and this frustration with the church. Man, they're abusing my talents. Because it's one thing to just do a special music at church. I mean, even I'm already saying that might be a little far, but that takes maybe a couple hours of practice. But to create a single video, even if you're an expert, is going to take you at least 10, 20, 30 hours. The videos that I create for my own channel take that much time, if not more. And so to do that simple thing, to do like a documentary for your church, or to just do a short 3-minute, like, man, when people say, oh, can you do a short 3-minute video? A short 3-minute video takes more work than a 30-minute video.
I'm telling you, man, it's kind of crazy. Like, I got nominated for an award, right? And
Congratulations, my bro.
I got
What was the award for? I'm curious now.
I got nominated for a Stellar Award doing a music video for a gospel artist, right?
Wow.
For a nationally known gospel artist, right? But then once I come to somebody and they ask me, well, what you charge? And I tell them, they're like, well, you're not worth that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, it kind of blows my mind, but I guess at the same time I gotta be humble and just realize the sandbox I'm playing in that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I'm all about giving back to my kids and making sure that that generation get the opportunities that I didn't have. So I make sure I pay them what I pay, what I make, because this is what they're supposed to do. And you need to value what those people, what they do. You have to value them.
Well, I'm so glad
Amen.
I'm so glad on Justin's bio it says he is a digital missionary. So
that's what it feels like. That's exactly it. That's exactly. And honestly, Doc, this is the reason why I use that language, because it was the easiest lens for me to look through my own life. To come back home as the man of the family, right? The one who's told that he's supposed to be a breadwinner and all these things. To come back after years of hard work to have a net growth of $2,000, that's before taxes. Yeah. So if I interpret it for myself, oh, I'm a missionary for a whole year, I'm not expecting to get paid for a whole year, then it starts to become stomachable. But we're in this season now where it's like, you know, we want to be able to start a family. We want to start, you know, be able to get our own place right now. Like, I mean, hey, this background looks dope, but this is my in-laws' house. Like real talk, right? Yeah. Like I want to be able to move on from the missionary phase and to be able minimally to earn a living wage.
And guess what, guys? Once we get past that, believe me, we're going to give it back.
I'm already giving it back. Here's the reason why I'm not making money is because I'm hiring Adventist young people, creatives who aren't getting paid by the church. There's a problem when I, as an individual contractor, can pay young people more than the church can.
Yeah, so, and that's the way I am too.
Real talk. There's an organization within our church at the highest level of our church who is trying to hire some of my friends in the Philippines who have skills far beyond what I could do. They're offering wages of something to the effect of $3 an hour because they're in the Philippines. Now, I get that there's a difference of economy there, and so maybe, you know, minimum wage here isn't the same as the wages there, but I'm sorry, but $3 an hour is an insult. It's a spit in the face, especially when they still got to buy their own cameras, they got to buy their own computers to do your job. I pay my workers in the Philippines 5 times the rate that the GC pays them.
Listen, and I think we need to hit this. You know, we don't have a lot of time left, but I know that there are people right now, even though they haven't typed it, they haven't said it yet. I'm going to get texts, I'm going to get phone calls. People are going to say there was that segment of the program where it sounded like it was just about money. It was just about finances. That it was just about that and there.
No, at this time it's about getting food on the table.
Yeah. Well. Here's what I want to address, because what on this program and on these discussions, one of the things that we started with was that COVID-19, this pandemic, is forcing the church to rethink. Structure and some of the mechanisms and processes and policies, but at its core, even structures, even financial structures, where people have been out of work for however long, and tithe bases are crumbling. In conferences are already letting go pastors, are cutting pastors' pay. Churches aren't getting the kind of income that they normally would have gotten. And so right now the church has got to be pushed into a corner where we've got to evaluate effectiveness and efficiency. Those two things. How are we going to be effective? Where's the most effective place to put our resources? When efficiency, how far is these few dollars that how far can they reach? And I think that what we've just kind of fell into right now is that these are some of the areas where Justin, 100,000 people from a vlog, from an initial 20 something thousand, $18,000 investment, but 100,000 people. When is the last time, Dr. Henry, that you pitched a tent that cost you $25,000 to pitch that tent on that corner, pay Bible workers, flyers, all of that, rent chairs, tables, put up you spent $25,000 on that event, but when was the last time you did that event and reached 100,000 people?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Pastor. And I appreciate you bringing context to that, because for many people it just sounds like a young person who's frustrated and upset with the church. And maybe a couple of years ago that would have absolutely been true of where I was at in my stage of and my journey. Now I'm very optimistic for the church. I've been seeing more activity and more action taking place. At least I'll speak here from my home conference, Oregon Conference. My goodness, it is a privilege to be able to stay here and to serve in this context. It is an incredible place for young people. We are valued, we are cherished, we are mentored, we are then released, and it's an exciting place to be. But it is absolutely, it's so true what you're saying, Pastor. We need to be examining how can we do things efficiently. How can we do things? And this is why I'm saying, like, we will still always have a need for in-person community and worship and all of these things. But the way we do missions absolutely needs to change. It needs to be updated with the times today.
There's a comment here by BT again, and I like his comment. He said, yes, the gospel is free, but the transmission and the delivery is not. The creators, they are paying the cost out of their pockets. Listen, we got to do a better job in supporting our media ministry. Listen, they can go, I just appeal to our viewers. I mean, we have individuals, I mean, they go anywhere and make a whole lot, especially during this time. But they're still, working and doing things for the church because they have that mission in their heart. So we got to do something. I don't see how we can go to sleep at night and have our people who are helping us, especially during these times, go through something like this. So I appreciate that comment in a special way.
Yeah, I can speak directly to that because I know as a pastor, I have poured a whole lot of personal money into gear, equipment, all that kind of stuff in order to do stuff. But this has been, even though, churches, so one of the issues that churches have, so I'm going to speak from two different hats. Oftentimes churches, regardless of what people think, the money's just not there. There are churches that operate in tens of thousands of dollar deficits month to month. And so in reality, there are churches who are struggling just to pay the light bill, to pay the mortgage. And so things like this, they're just way off of people's radar when they're just trying to get by. On the other hand, on the other side of that, I think about what I have been doing. Especially now, I've been able to dip into my church's evangelism fund to be able to help resource some of the things that we're needing to do through this time. I have an ability to do that because I know what's there, and I sit on the board and I see funds. The young creative person in my pew does not have that same kind of access to be able to even know that they should come and request some help out of the evangelism fund. And a lot of churches before COVID-19 would never have thought to try to fund something of a digital footprint out of an evangelism budget. That's going to be technology budget.
But why is that though?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a misplaced opportunity.
See, and that kind of goes back to my nurture, my nurture comment. If you get them at an early age where they're young and they're ready to go, and you mold them and you show them what they're capable of doing, and they make them good stewards of what's happening, then as they grow, they'll grow in what you needed to happen. And now I'm sorry for those churches that can't do certain things because they're financially hamstrung. You know what I mean? I completely get it. But if you can't, not everybody's going to be able to do this. And that's the honest truth. You know what I mean? We want to go and we want to tell everybody to go forth and do the best you can and go forward and, you know, be game changers and do all this stuff and invest in all this money. But it kind of comes back down to the same thing I've always said. And I've said it anywhere you go, everywhere I go, you got to make sure that what you're about to put out is worth what you're going to take in or what you're going to expend. If you got to be very, very careful in that. So talk to your people around and be like, listen, here's something that I'm doing. And I've talked with a lot of people in doing various different conferences and stuff online. You know, I just helped a friend out who wanted to do a conference for women, and she did it. She did an excellent job. You know what I mean? It was dope. You know what I mean? She didn't think that she had a footprint to go to. But talk to people who've been there. We'll give you the guidance, but you got to put us in a position to guide.
So we asked the question, like, how can a church afford to do this? And like, I understand the intention behind that, but the more real question we should be asking ourselves is how can we afford to not do it?
Not do it.
When we see the historic rates of 59% of young adults leaving the church with an additional 23% on the fence of whether or not they're going to stay or go, this is a study commissioned by the North American Division. It translates to over 80% of young adults either leave or are thinking about leaving. This is just data. This is truth. How can we afford to do things the way we've always done them?
Justin, it's crazy because when you think about it, Justin, hold on, think about it. You heard what he just said, right? In the next 20 to 30 years, what does that look like for the church if you don't act now?
But come on, guys. You guys know how much it costs the church to put that statue up of the pioneers in front of the church. I mean, that money's got to come from somewhere to replace those windows with those nice stained glass windows.
Nothing.
That money's got to come from somewhere.
Let me look on my phone. Let me look on my phone because you over here. I wish I had some tea.
You bold, Pastor. You bold. You bold, man.
But he's right.
But here's the thing now, and you know, we're winding down now. So what word do you have for our viewers and for our church leadership that's viewing this show? What word do you have for them in regards to media ministry? What's the call to action? What's the call to action?
Let me go first. We're here to help you, right? We want you to succeed. We want to help the church, but you have to let us help you. That's basically what it is. It's all about connection. You got to be able to not have the fear in having somebody else take the reins to bring you where you need to be. Most of the time it's a pride thing. Most of the time it's a pride thing because you're like, oh, this young guy thinks that he knows more than me. I've been doing this for 30 years. Okay, the doors are locked. Preach your sermon. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go look at my phone.
I would just say this. I don't think I have a very specific thing because it's too hard to know. Every conference does have its own unique context to think about. Every church is unique in itself, so I don't want to say there's a blanket thing. But I will say this: in times of crisis, what we need from leadership is action. We need decisive action. And I want to give you the freedom, if you're a church leader, to make an action. And even if it's the wrong action, do something. Try something different. And it's okay if it fails. You know how many times I've put out content and it failed? You know how many times I tried a project and it didn't work? And that's part of the game. But we know what we will get if we continue doing things the way that we've always done them. Okay. In order to get a different result, you have to try something different. Now, maybe you're not convinced with what Gary and I have been trying to advocate for. Maybe you're not convinced on the whole social media thing. Cool, well and good. But you know the numbers, you know the data that our church is suffering, at least in North America. So if you don't think that our proposed solution works, that's okay. Think of something else. Pray of something. Pray with your team. Talk to your leadership and see what are the needs that they have. And whatever it is, as hard as it might be, like, I encourage you, we need your leadership now more than ever. We need decisive action moving forward.
Wow. Well, Pastor Paul, I know we're running down on time. I just want to thank Gary Saunders and Justin Khoe for this conversation. Needed. This is needed. And just pouring out your heart. And I know that the work that you do is powerful. I mean, the things that you're doing through the media ministry, the help that you're giving the churches is powerful. And before we leave this show today, we want to pray for you all, because we want you all to continue doing that ministry. And we want the church, pastors, conferences, unions, the division, to pour into this ministry, not just by praying for you, but financially, so that you'll be able to take care of your family and be able to bless others. And so we want to do that. Pastor Paul, I don't know if you want to pray right now, and then we could talk about next week.
Yeah. Let's do that. By the way, we're going to put some information up for these gentlemen and for their various ministries on the Pastors Roundtable page, so that you can follow up with them if you have just want to explore, see some of the content that they are creating. Avail yourself of some of the services that they may offer, like what Gary, some of the things that Gary is doing, the content that Justin has put out. Justin, by the way, put out, I think it was just yesterday, an awesome video that I think you need to hear. Has to do with kind of the social justice, and a conversation with Pastor John Boston yesterday. Somebody actually put that in the comments. Great interview. I actually did watch that. I saw that one, Justin. Thank you for your transparency with that. So we'll give you guys access as much as we can. You can go to the pastor's page so you can get their information and follow these gentlemen in their various ministries. But let's have a word of prayer over you guys. Father, we thank you for these men who have dedicated their work, the work of their lives, their energy, their sweat, their toil, their tears, their passion into the cause of building the kingdom of God, of making disciples. We ask that their labor would not be in vain. We pray that you would surround them with angels that excel in physical strength, but also, Lord, in fresh ideas and inspiration and motivation, that you would direct their paths and their footsteps, bring people into their sphere of influence who are ripe for the kingdom of heaven. Give them always the ability to have a word that is in due season, that will give somebody courage and hope and motivation, and ultimately that will point them to falling deeply and madly and passionately in love with Jesus Christ. We pray that you'd enlarge their territory, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Gentlemen,
amen.
Thank you so very much. Don't go far. We're going to hang out with you guys for just a minute once we close, but we want to talk a little bit about next week and the week after. Next week. So we started at the beginning saying this was part one of two on the digital footprint thing. So what's going on next week? What's on the table for next week, Dr. Henry? This is big. This is big, y'all.
Yes,
it's big. It's
big.
Big.
Listen. We told you we go international on this show. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, we went to Canada, and we talked to some leaders in Canada. Next week, we're going international. We're having several people on the show who are doing something like this. And so we're going international. We're going to have Sandra all the way from Australia.
Sandra
it's going to be a
Innerman.
live stream, by the way, Brother Gary Saunders. It's going to be a live stream. But what's the name? Sandra is coming, and she's going to talk about her show that's gaining a lot of viewers. Pastor Paul, I think it's about 5 or 10,000, something like that. 5 or 10,000 over there.
It's just a simple thing. This is kind of stuff what Justin was talking about. Just do something. She's not doing anything special. It's just a Friday night Vesper sing-along. 20,000 people following, watching. 20, not 5, 20. Just something simple. Then we're going up to New York. What's happening? Maryland. Bowie.
Maryland. We're going. Paul Graham.
What?
And who else do we have? We have a lot of people, Pastor Paul.
We're going to Dallas, Texas.
Oh, Jamie Calazar.
Jamie Calazar is going to be with us. That's right. Then we're going out to Southern California with Iki, and I can't pronounce his last name, Iki Tulu Talamani.
He's going to be on the show.
He's going to hurt me. Who else? Who else we have?
We have Kicking It. They have a show called Kicking It. That's right. They're coming on. and basically next week we're just going to talk about.
Wait a minute, we're not done. If you've been watching or seeing the Bloom conference, we've got Lola Moore Johnston is going to be with us on next week. So awesome stuff. People who are doing stuff, just great stuff. Great stuff.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
So, and I know we're limited time now. But we're talking about the impact that social media has on society. And so they're coming on and talking about that. Now, the following week, Pastor Paul, if you want to talk a little bit about the following week.
Hey, Justin inspired me. We're going Black Lives Matter on July 4th. Black Lives Matter. We have some very special guests that are going to be with us, and that whole program we're going to be dealing with that topic and Black Lives Matter. Now you may I know there's a lot of folk who are turned off by that term, and I get it. We get it. So don't turn off, because we're going to discuss it from lots of different angles. But we're looking at Black Lives Matter, and we have with us Pastor Ivor Myers is going to be with us on not next week, but on the 4th, and
July
then
4th. Yeah. Mike Kelly.
And then Michael Kelly, Pastor Michael Kelly is going to be with us on July 4th. So that's going to be a great weekend. So you want to make sure that you're planning those weeks ahead. Roger told me that his wife told him, and we're sorry that we missed Pastor Wade today, and I'm sure he sends his apologies, because I know he missed being here with everybody today. But he told us last night his wife said that we can't stop Pastor's Roundtable, even when we open up, just because we're having such great discussions. I was watching a thing this morning that Ivor was doing with Benjamin Baker and one of the professors at Southern. Powerful. You got to watch it if you missed that. Their Sabbath school and stuff this morning. I shared that like so many different places. But we're looking forward so much for that weekend and for next weekend. We thank you. I know we're about 6 minutes over time, but we thank you all for joining us and hanging in there with us today. Thank you again to Justin Khoe and Gary Saunders. And we're excited to have you all back with us on next week, Pastors Roundtable, 4 o'clock.
All right.